1 in 5 suffer.
Erase the stigma.
Brain difference is not a crime.
Mental health isn't just your problem.
It's our problem.
And now, Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave.
Welcome to Mental Health Mondays. We are Marla and Dave. I am Princess Marla.
And I think I'm Phantom Dave. I'm not quite sure what I am. This is sort of a hodgepodge.
I'm concerned that
I could explain this, but it would take too long. We want to welcome you to the show and remind you to text the word GIVE, G-I-V-E, to 818-698-10221. I can barely take myself seriously while I'm saying this.
Don't knock your beak off, boy.
But again, text the word GIVE, G-I-V-E, to 818-698-1021 and support our A Dollar Today Keeps the Stigma Away campaign. Happy Halloween. I also want to give a shout out to my mom. This is her first anniversary. This was my parents' anniversary. Halloween. This is the first one without my dad.
And this costume explains it.
Yeah, maybe that does explain it. Anyway, we love you, Mom. But he's an actor. He's an artist, a dancer, an actor, a singer, a director, producer, writer, and he's our friend. Trusty Scribe is here. And you know what? He's brought some of his artwork back, and we're going to feature some of that today. Again, it's entitled, his latest artwork is entitled, his collection is The Rebirth Eternal?
Rebirth Eternal.
Rebirth Eternal, that's right. And Trusty will be sharing some of that art with us today.
And I'm excited because I've got questions.
Yes, and
I might have answers. I don't have a costume, but I might have answers.
Well, that's all we need. Just talk to Princess Marla.
Yep.
Hello.
Well, don't go anywhere. As you see, we're already having fun, maybe too much fun. We'll be right back with our friend Trusty Scribe.
Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave and NAMI San Fernando Valley believe it doesn't take much to make life a little better for our neighbors, coworkers, friends, our family members, even our children who suffer with mental illness. When you support our A Dollar Today Keeps the Stigma Away campaign, you are doing your part to erase the stigma surrounding mental illness. For just $1 today, or $1 a day for 1 week, just $7, we can look forward to a future that does not include the unfortunate and uncomfortable stares, bullying, and the subsequent isolation that our loved ones who suffer with brain differences deal with. Text the word GIVE, that's G-I-V-E, to 818-698-1021 to donate. A Dollar Today Keeps the Stigma Away. Brought to you by Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave and NAMI San Fernando Valley.
We promised, we're back, and I want to be sure to welcome all of you who are in the chat room. Your questions are always welcome here, as we are welcoming our guest and friend, Trusty Scribe, back to Mental Health Mondays. Welcome, Trusty.
Thank you. Happy to be
Yes.
back. It was 1 year ago today. It was pouring rain last time.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Was it 1 year exactly?
Yeah,
Wow.
I stood out in the rain waiting for you guys to
No,
get
Trusty.
here.
Trusty, no.
Trusty Marla made us late.
No, Trusty. Don't
Well,
do that,
you know,
Trusty. The princess doesn't like that.
During the break, Trusty asked me, am I committed to the mask? I said, I am for now. I don't know how long I can do this. One of our producers, Hannah, said, hey, you guys should dress up for Halloween. I was like, I didn't think about that.
Well, she didn't know you'd go this far.
Well, Marla had her tiara already picked out, and she was like, oh, you can just wear that thing from the studio.
Yeah, and then nobody sent me the memo.
Exactly.
Well, listen.
I'm just me. I'm just every day trying to be 100% me.
Can I tell you, Trusty, about lazy Halloween?
Yeah.
I said today I had a doctor's appointment, and several of the people in the office were dressed up, and I said, I can't. They were like, why not? You could. They were giving me ideas. I said, listen, by the time I commit, it's when I'm done for the day, is when I'm mad. I don't want to put on all this makeup and all this stuff, and then I have to undo it.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow it won't be Halloween, and I'm going to have to look like myself.
Well, I feel like you go through life with a tiara just sort of always on your head.
Yes.
So.
Thank you, Trusty.
That's her halo.
Yeah.
It's her halo.
Hello.
Yeah.
But like we said, our guest is Trusty Scribe. He is not just an artist, but he's an innovative artist. And I'm pretty sure most artists believe themselves to be innovative. But Trusty, you can go around the world and find some of his artwork just on the wall, just post it up somewhere, and it will actually inspire you to think a little bit deeper about our humanity and the things that we go through and the things that inspire us in general. Trusty, how would you describe your artwork?
I think it's diverse. I like to say that art is a conversation with the world.
Yeah.
And whatever conversation I want to have at that time, I find whatever tool or medium is best to serve that conversation. So the word bubble and street art stuff serves one conversation. The underwater photography serves another. My film work and writing serves another.
So when you say it serves another, is that another aspect of your personality coming out in your art?
Or experience? Because
I think that some artists do one thing and do one thing really well, and they sort of stay in their pocket. And I've always been sort of, I mean, you listed my resume of my history of my life within art, whether it was when I was younger as a dancer and an actor, or within the film world, or photography, or street art. I like finding different tools because my brain is constantly trying to have these different conversations and these different creative thoughts, and what do I need to do to put that out there so it's not one thing. It's not like, oh, everything is going to be spray paint based.
Right. So now let me ask you this. Your latest collection, Rebirth Eternal, what was the motivation for that?
Well, I've always had a love for the water, and I'm a scuba diver.
Oh, me too.
I always say, we talked about that. I think you dive in Hawaii.
I dive everywhere, but everywhere I can, but mostly Hawaii, because that's mostly where Marla likes to go.
Yeah, and do some Molokini crater
dive. Don't take him seriously. He's a bird. I don't know how much you can trust the beak.
Right.
I'm a seabird though.
But so I've had an affinity for water, and I find it really healing.
Me too.
And I, over the years, had seen underwater photography and thought there's always something beautiful and tranquil about it. And as someone who's been a photographer pretty much my whole life, I thought maybe there's something there for me that I can get into. And I met another underwater photographer, and she really opened the door for me and showed me sort of the tools that I might need. And it was one of those things, no pun intended, that I just had to dive in. I had to get the equipment and just start doing it.
All right. Well, do you mind? I know that we have photos, and because I have questions.
I have answers.
Okay, so let's show one of the photos. Okay, this is brilliant.
So this was actually the first image in the entire series. This is called Birth of Life. Obviously an underwater image, and I always, in my photography, I tend to look towards the sun and look towards the light.
Right.
Even with my street art photography, the sun is always present in the work.
Right.
And so in a lot of the images, I put myself between the subject and the sun.
Okay, so I have a question. So when you're visualizing how you want to express your art, does that play into who you choose to actually be the subject?
Oh, the way I found people was really super organic and really wonderful, because majority of people that came out and shot with me had a really cathartic experience and a really moving experience. There's an image of a couple that I have called Unison Evolved, and they're such a lovely couple, that one. And what I love about this image is that their two faces sort of merged into one in the shape of a heart. And that happened
just
organically.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's moving underwater. I'm moving and they're moving, and then they're moving together and not together, moving apart from one another. And so that really happened organically. And when I show this work, I showed on a really large scale, 6 feet by 4 feet, and did them on metals.
Wow.
So there's a reflective quality to them. I feel like images like this need to be stood in front of and interacted with. I think on a smaller scale, things are easier to dismiss.
Yes.
When you do them large scale, it begs to be
You can be
addressed.
distracted,
Right.
so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so the other question I have, just as it relates to actually capturing the art, what is the conversation like? I look at that, and every picture that you have that I've seen, and I've seen several, the subjects all just look completely at peace. And my thought is, how long do you have to actually get that, because no one looks distressed. No one looks like my next breath could be a lung full of water.
Right. I mean, obviously the objective of the work is tranquility and peace, right? That's the idea. The overall sort of arching theme is a celebration of our fragility. And that no matter where we are in life, that sometimes we need to take those quiet moments before we start on the next sort of adventure or trajectory in our life. And so capturing that peace and tranquility was key. And not everybody can hold their breath for long periods of time.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's different for everybody.
So there's a technique to shooting underwater as far as breath holding that I have to work people through. And then I'm usually at the very bottom shooting 10 feet down, shooting upward. And so then they're sinking sort of down and into it. And so a lot of the work is about the meditative process of being in the water and being comfortable.
Wow.
So now, how much of your artwork, because you've been a guest on Mental Health Mondays before, and you told us about some of the depression that you dealt with growing up. How much of that is actually in your artwork?
Oh, I think it's a through line through all of it. I think that I had a artist friend say to me, I'm glad you went back to photography. And I was like, well, I didn't go back. It's happening concurrently. Again, it's that conversation, and it's, what I want to say at that time. But this series specifically is about finding that calm, finding that tranquility, and finding that peace within yourself. And what's amazing about this series, as I created this entire body of work, was that majority of people that came to see it all felt, oh, it puts me at peace and I feel tranquil and quiet. And it's like, that was what I set out to do. Yeah,
that's amazing. And that's always a good thing when the intention of the artist can be translated to those that actually observe the art or absorb it in any way.
And also, I just also want to do you identify what you're doing as well as, is there bravery? Because when I think about it, that's kind of what I feel like. How attached or detached are you to other people's
experience?
Of the art? Because I feel like that you're such a true artist that, what you're doing and where you're expressing from is really truly genuine in you and about your expression. And the rest of us, I get it. But if you don't, then, because I know that artists are very sensitive.
Well, hold
even
that
with
thought.
his beak.
Hold that thought. Yes, I'm a sensitive bird. And we'll let Trusty answer that as soon as we get back from this next break. Don't go anywhere. Our guest is Trusty Scribe.
It's time for the Mental Health Minute with Marla and Dave.
It's a common misconception that people who suffer from mental illness are violent or unpredictable. Here are the facts.
According to mentalhealth.gov, the vast majority of people with mental health problems are no more likely to be violent than anyone else. In fact, most people with mental illness are not violent, and only 3% to 5% of violent acts can be attributed to individuals living with a serious mental illness.
People with severe mental illnesses are actually over 10 times more likely to be victims of violent crime than the general population. You probably know someone with a mental health issue and don't even realize it, because many people with mental health problems are highly active and productive members of our communities.
Maybe it's about time to reconsider how we think about mental illness and the people who suffer from it.
This message is brought to you by Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave.
I never do anything without thinking about it first.
Marla is a feeler.
I basically live my personality on my sleeve.
But when Marla and Dave get together, it's like a match dancing with a firecracker.
Okay. Well, we have a question on the table for Trusty, and I was basically, and I'll remind our audience, I find that your truth of art is, I would put a label of it emotionally to being brave, because I feel like that there's a bravery in expression that is not stopped. It doesn't mean you don't consider, but it's not stopped by thinking about others. And when I say thinking about others, other people's criticism or negativity, Because I think that's here's, and let me tell me if I'm right about this. So I explain a lot of the times that people look at those out front, and you're an artist, and you've got art exhibits, and you have your what you've done as far as your painting and your quotes and your messaging is just powerful. I wear one of your patches, and so when an artist goes to create, I literally look at it like there's something in you that is growing that needs to be born. And there's a window up, a screen, a curtain, and you grow this idea, this art in you and these expressions, and you create them, and then you open up the window and you hold it up to the world and you say, "Ha, what do you think?" And the world either cheers or they say, "That's the ugliest baby I've ever seen." Right. But they almost feel like because you're public with your expression and with your gifts, that you have no attachment to that. And I feel like it's the opposite. There's a sensitivity in that, but there's also a bravery in that. So talk to me about that.
There's so many levels to I feel like we could talk about this one question for a couple hours, because I think artists, no matter what type of art you practice, I think it's 100% ego and 100% insecurity. That you create something, you're like, "I'm a genius," and then a second later you're like, "This is terrible and nobody's gonna like it, and why did I do this?" And it. So to that respect, I don't know where I don't think of it as brave. I think that the people that came to collaborate with me in the water and to bear something of themselves, I think that was brave, and I felt an obligation to put myself on the other side of the camera for the show. And so I did a video installation that went along with it that I'm actually in as well, because I felt if I was asking so many people to bear so much of themselves, that I felt a responsibility that I should as well. But I don't think of it as brave. I think that there's the conversation about public voice and what happens in the public space now and how people react to one another, and the sort of vitriol that accompanies that people think that they can just say anything to anyone and don't think of the impact of it. Someone like me who is open about the mental health struggles that I've had, for people to attack me, which has happened, I find strange, because I've openly said, "Look, this is a journey that
this
I'm
is my vulnerability."
and
That's why
it's
I'm
not
asking
always
as
easy.
well.
And so when people are attacking you, I mean, you all experience this. I've seen some of that online where people attack you when you're trying to either create art or raise your family and do what's right and trying to make the world a better place. It becomes a challenge, and it definitely, you hear it.
Right.
You can't not hear it.
You can't. It's not like striking from when you hear striking from the record in the court. I was always like, "How?" You're telling me not to consider what I just had to consider.
Right. And I'm proudly sensitive.
Yeah.
And so when people say ugly and hurtful things, it lands.
It's hard not to, with what you just said, to put that in the perspective of the times that we're living through right now, where it's almost, I used to say back when social media first came out, that, man, this is like people in their pajamas who would never say anything to my face the way that they'll be willing to say these things online on social media.
Yeah.
And now it's almost like that's a thing of the past. They will say it to your face now. We have issues where, people are breaking into the Speaker of the House's home and attacking her husband, to where the things that they think and the things that they do, that wall of "I'll never do this in public" is actually just broken down, and they'll say and do anything nowadays, it seems like to me.
Yeah, I'm an idealist and an optimist, and what comes along with that is an oversimplification of grand issues. And so I look at the energy that we collectively spend either in this country or around this world tearing each other apart as opposed to building each other up. And I think, God, if we could just shift that energy to doing something to move us forward instead of constantly moving us back, we'd all be better off. But the vitriol that happens around the world now is not helping us move forward. And I think it's something that has happened throughout time. It's not unique to our time.
No, or even to the U.S.
That the powers that be sort of have a way of pitting us against one
Yeah.
another as opposed to us finding a way to all work together.
Right.
But as an artist, you've described sort of the sensitivity that most artists are willing to explore with, and to just sink in there and dive in there and really deal with those things where our vulnerabilities really lie. What do you think, from an artist perspective, it will take to sort of put the genie back in the bottle for us to get back to that time where that vitriol is not what drives us so much, and the unity is more of what drives us as a society?
Well, I think one key is to not think of going back. I don't think there is a back. It's a forward. It's always forward.
Yeah.
And I may have, we may have talked about this last time I was here. One thing that helped me through some of my darkest points was to not feel that I was down in a hole, but that I was in a tunnel and I was passing through. Because the idea of trying to climb out of something or going back to something that may have never existed, you can't do that. You can't go back. You can only move forward.
Yeah.
So move forward towards the light. And I always say love and compassion. If you try to approach every single situation, regardless of what it is, with love and compassion, even people that adamantly disagree with everything in your being, if you try to respond with love and compassion and understand there's another human being on the other side of this table that disagrees with me, but they're going through something too, and how do I reach them with love and compassion and information? I think that ignorance and bigotry and racism comes is about being uninformed, right? And so the more informed you are, the more compassion you'll have for someone else.
Yeah.
And so that to me is the path forward, is love and compassion.
Now that we totally agree with. By the way, FD Fowles in the chat room says beautiful art.
Oh, thank you so much.
So for sure. So yeah, I totally agree with that, Trusty, 1,000%. And we were just talking about this the other day, that's we can't do anything about the past, and obviously we're here. So to me, my thought is whatever was in the past is not working towards the objective and the goals that I have. In other words, because we're here.
Right.
So we have to build something new, and we can only do that if we do it going forward, and that is the foundation.
Right.
Because love is the absolute opposite of hate and division. I mean, in other words, and it has understanding, there's acceptance in that. It's a thing.
Right. But it's being informed by it. It's not,
Sure.
It's not negating it. It's not
Sure.
ignoring that all terrible things happened in the past, but it's, I can't change this.
Right.
Every day work to be just a better version of yourself and fill it with love and compassion.
Well, speaking of a better version of yourself, you being such a talented artist in various areas, is there something else that Trusty is going to be? Because I've watched you. I can happily say that
She's watched.
I'm watching you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like a
But
peeping Tom.
when you were
peeping princess.
approaching when you started working on the art, or when you were putting together your last art exhibit, we went to lunch.
Yeah.
And I said, what are you doing with these these paint swatches? And I was intrigued. I was like, oh, so I want to know, is there something else? What's next for Trusty? I'm not trying to put you on the table, but I'm putting you out here. Get on my table, Trusty.
I'm on. I'm on.
I'm
Well,
a
it's
princess.
interesting. The painting the paint swatches that you're referring to, I have a painting or an image of the painting that I did called "A Light Within," and that entire background is hand-laid paint swatches.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's a 5x4 painting. That image is from an underwater photo that I took. And so doing more of these, I would love to partner with a paint brand like Bear, because those are actually Bear paint swatches.
Oh, wow.
That if you zoom in, when you actually see the piece in person, people walk
brilliant.
up and they're just sort of amazed. And
I am.
Yeah.
I can see that.
No, that is amazing.
Okay, well, don't move. We'll be right back. We're not done with Trusty, and neither will you aren't either. We'll be right back.
All right, it's
No.
that music
Music
tells us what,
No.
princess? It's
That-
time
it's
for you
time
to
for
do
Trusty
it.
to dance. Trusty's a dancer.
Trusty is a dancer.
Trusty's a-
Oh no!
Trusty-
I pulled something. Yeah,
We can only do it from here to here, Trusty. You can't.
just a little.
Well, there you go. We have Marla and her tiara are dancing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so last week, what was the poll question, Marla?
The poll question was, what percentage of Americans live with a serious mental illness such as schizophrenia, bipolar, or major depression? Is it A, 1%, B, 4%, or C, 7%?
Trusty, what do you think?
Let's see.
It's C. Well, our guest, Casey, last week guessed
I think
this correctly.
she chose C as well. No,
She did not. She chose
She said
B.
B.
Well, we just let Trusty know that he didn't win.
Wait, so is it diagnosed or undiagnosed?
It
It is diagnosed.
Got it.
Okay,
Diagnosed.
so
And
but
so
you hang in
probably,
there, Trusty.
probably even higher than 7
This
undiagnosed.
answer is not going to change the course of your life. But if the next one, we got another question
All
for you.
right. So the next the poll question for next week is: how much money does the global economy lose every year due to depression and anxiety?
That's a good question.
Your options are A, $500 billion, B, $1 trillion,
Or
C,
$2 trillion.
$2 trillion. That's a lot of money. Just based on money that is lost in the global economy every
Because
year
somebody, because of,
due to depression and anxiety.
I can't even wrap my head around what $1 billion even.
Yeah.
What that even? I'm gonna go
Yeah.
with. Let's go with $2 billion.
$2
trillion.
I mean, $2
So
trillion.
there was 500 billion.
Oh, 500 billion.
$1
$1 trillion
or
and
$2
then $2
trillion.
trillion.
Yeah. That's astronomical.
I don't know.
He said $1 trillion.
He said $1 trillion, so we will see. And because, as usual, you have to wait until next week to find out if Trusty Scribe gets the correct answer. In
What
the
are you laughing at,
meantime,
sweetie?
remember, text the word GIVE, GIVE, to 818-698-1021. $1 today keeps the stigma away. Back to the show. I can really take
goodness.
myself seriously with this mask
Good.
on.
I'm glad you realized
Except,
that.
every time in the show, I was like, okay, this conversation getting serious. I should take this off. But then it was like, man, by the time I get it off and on, this is a thing.
I mean, we were thinking it too.
You were thinking that, yeah.
We were all in sync.
Yeah, this mask requires so much thinking. I have to pay attention not to hit things with this beak. It's just out of control.
David, I don't you just
And
retire
I think
that
I
when
might
you
have
get home.
tied it on too tightly.
Cutting the
You're-
blood off from
you're-
his brain.
This is just suffering
your head is
for the
swelling?
look.
Your head is swelling? Is that what's happening? Okay. So, okay. Well, Trusty, I was when you were gathering the paint swatches.
Yeah.
I had to ask you. I was like, what the hell are you doing? What is that? And then I realized, I was like, I got to see this. So that's amazing. And so I know that I asked you what you have coming up. I want you to just talk to us about whatever. I want to give you, because your art is an expression of an experience and a gift that you have. That's what intrigued me, and that's what attracted me to just such a truth in you. And so,
Thank you. Yeah, it's more underwater stuff. I've been looking into like brand partnerships with companies so that I can bring my work, get my work out there more around the world. Doing like a partnership with a hotel or an airline brand to be able to travel around and do site-specific art. I have some ideas for a large art installation piece that is sort of in the works. And then working on a book, and then more word bubbles, more underwater photography, and more paintings. Yeah.
Here's a question for you, Trusty. How much inspiration do you get from the medium that you choose for your artwork? In other words, underwater sometimes, and some of your street work, the mediums are completely different. How much does that inspire the work, or is it the opposite? Does it go the other way?
I think it's everything. I think that I bring something. I mean, as an artist, you're always bringing your perspective, right? This is how I see the world, and so this is how I reflect the world back at itself. And then, like, the streets sort of tell me as I'm putting work up sort of what it needs, I guess.
Yeah.
And same with the underwater work, because there's so much unexpected that happens that you'll be creating, and something magical will happen that you didn't plan for, didn't expect, and it's better than you could have expected. The woman that I shot with, it's in the painting. We shot for 4 hours.
Wow.
A lot of breath holding.
Yeah.
And through the process of shooting, we came across something else that I'm really excited about, and I've started shooting as a totally separate series.
Wow.
A whole new series of work that I haven't shared yet, and is sort of in the works, and might be in the works for the next couple years without me showing it.
No, I love that. I love that.
Well, that's another really quick question.
Yeah.
Is there a time frame that it takes to bring your art forward to a full fruition?
As long as it takes.
Okay.
Yeah. There's no. I mean, some work I feel needs to be sort of created in a moment because it's a commentary on society, like when Anthony Bourdain died. That and Kate Spade, like they took their lives a couple days
Literally
from one another, and so those word bubbles were poignant at that moment.
Right.
You needed to be on the street,
right.
you know, within hours for it to have an impact.
Right.
But then stuff like this, like some of these photo
Right.
series, I worked on Rebirth Eternal for 2.5 years without
Yeah.
showing anyone.
Right.
Wow. And I know for me, there was a time from a musical perspective that I would thinking, oh, this is great, but it could be better.
Right.
And so it was always a thing where I'm not ready to actually put it out yet.
So there's a saying, art is never finished, it's just abandoned.
Yeah.
Right? You could sit and tinker on something,
you
whether
can
it's
keep
a
going
screenplay
forever.
or a song or a
Yeah.
painting. You could continue to change it at a certain point. You got to go, it's enough.
I'm done.
And walk away from it. But the music industry has its own pressures, right? If you're
It does.
outside the system and independent, you can take
Do as much time as you want. But if you're being
Right?
demanded to
Right.
put
That's
something
exactly
out,
correct. And
Right.
that's how I learned how to deal with it. You know,
Right.
someone says, this is your time frame,
Right.
time's up. So I'm saying, okay, good, I'm done.
Right.
Yeah, the job is called for me.
Right. Exactly.
Well, Trusty.
oh, so that's why you've taken so long to create the ode to Marla,
yes,
because no one's
there's
pressuring
no
you.
pressure. That's right.
Oh, I just finished my ode to Marla. So should I just...
Trusty
See, Trusty did it, yes.
Okay.
And
Well,
it's
there
underwater.
you go. And Dave's busy wearing a beak, and Trusty already has the ode to Marla. Look at the dichotomy working here.
Oh my goodness. Trusty, give us one final nugget of wisdom, a thought that can inspire
Trusty
us.
words. We need trusty
again
words.
and again, love and compassion. Everything you do, no matter what the interaction, no matter where you are, what you're dealing with, or who you're talking to, love and compassion for other people and for yourself.
Absolutely. Well, Trusty Scribe has said it best. Love and compassion is not something that we can ever have enough of, especially this day and age. Our guest has been Trusty Scribe. Thank you so much.
As Marla and Dave from Mental Health Monday, I give you a promise and an oath that we will always keep up with Trusty, and anything that Trusty has happening, you will absolutely hear it here on Mental Health Mondays.
Absolutely. And guess what, you guys? Next week, we have another friend coming back. Doug Green, our buddy, is back in studio. You won't want to miss it. See you guys next week. Happy Halloween. Be safe.
Thanks so much.
Bye.